Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer and listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to another episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. It's always a thrill and a privilege to bring you a guest who's going to empower you, energize you, enthuse you, as well as to motivate you to do something. We're going to discuss the burning question of land, the land issue in Botswana, and my guest is right at the heart of it. You may have seen him in a previous episode, and you're going to discuss many other things. But as usual, I would like to have the guests introduce themselves. We're going to discuss a lot of things on the issue of land, that is. But before we go ahead, please do me a small little favor. Just hit that subscribe button. Please don't forget to subscribe. Mr. Sesinyi, you're not a first-time guest. You've been here before.
That's right.
Can I be privileged enough to welcome you to the show? Would you care to just, for those who don't know, share a little bit about your professional background?
Okay. Well, first my name. My name is Gilbert Sesinyi. I come from the village of Madinare. I am a student of land issues. I'm a registered land surveyor with about 27 years of experience in the industry. And I have my own private practice. I'm a private practitioner in that regard. Botswana, and who has developed passion for the work that he's doing, and I'm here to serve the nation.
Okay. What does a land surveyor do typically?
A land surveyor is a professional that is trained in taking, first and foremost, measurements on the surface of the earth, even underneath the earth. Measurements that are used for purposes of designing different types of developments, on the what we call the world development stage. So it could be from bridges, highways, homes, complexes, whatever type of development that is to take place on the land, on the earth, which could be underground too. So, and out of that ability or skill, they produce records. Some of those records are used legally for title purposes. Some of those records are used in engineering to inform designs in an accurate manner and allow that, whatever developments that take place, they are guarded and guided by accurate measurements.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So maths has to be your strong point, mathematics.
Oh yes. Especially the mastery of geometry and the compass and the square, as our fathers used to call way back in Egypt. How we built the pyramids.
Yes.
And all other marvels hidden. But of course,
so it's about the mastery thereof. You were here some months ago, close to, I think, 10 months ago. Okay. And we had a very good conversation. And I know that when your video dropped, there was a buzz about it. Has there been any reaction? Have you had any feedback from the masses, from the people?
Yes, certainly. I have, which I must thank you. Exposure helps, because the whole idea of our exercise and intervention is to make sure that we touch every nook and cranny. And when we get that opportunity and we find ourselves, seen by people everywhere, and they called and many people called. So we watched your show. We watched your show on the Nuggets, and wow! And I myself was thrown back, in terms of like the effect, the resonance that a message whose time has come has with the minds of the people. And and I know that all this is because of God's grace and His intention.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you announced towards the end of the interview that you are about to launch a book. And I think you had already set a stage and time for the book launch. But from where I'm sitting, you abruptly terminated that effort. Can you explain to us why that happened, and if I'm correct in my characterization?
Yes, no, indeed. I follow guidance, inner guidance and intuition. So I went ahead, I did what I thought at the time was competent work, that would be able to do serve the purpose for which it is intended, which is to open minds. We really believe, as I said the last time, that this is a divinely inspired work. It is a once-in-a-while type thing that happens. So this type of work where black people, Botswana, indigenous natives, are being given an opportunity to come into a world that heretofore they were precluded to be a part of. It's like the opening of blind eyes, as the scripture puts it, and the making deaf people to hear, and the making the dumb to speak, and raising the dead to life. So in that instance, I don't want to be guilty of any omissions. So I ran into subject matter through a scholar called Hernando de Soto, who wrote a book called The Mystery of Capital. It just landed on
What's
my
his
laps.
name?
Hernando de Soto. He's a South American gentleman who's a well-renowned scholar.
This is after your interview here.
Yes. Just after the interview, after I actually launched the book. I launched it and pulled it back from the shelves. When this aspect came to realization that there's an aspect dealing with dead capital, and we will delve into such subject matter in the course of this interview today. But dead capital is the biggest omission in Africa, in amongst the third worlds. And it is the difference, as the Bible puts it, the people are dying or perishing as a result of the lack of
knowledge.
And it is right there. There is knowledge. This phrase or verse in the Bible is not just a verse. It's so real that when you do get knowledge, your situation, your circumstances change overnight. Just from knowledge.
So what does Hernando dos Santos has to say?
Hernando dos Santos made a very interesting observation with respect to why capitalism works in the West and fails in other parts or in the third world. He has made a very good observation, a very interesting observation in that third world. We have the same, in fact, had more resources than the first world. And it is not just on account of the fact that they have historically taken advantage or have had an upper hand. It is also on this.
It's nothing to do with slavery.
Well,
and colonialism.
It has a big contribution, but today we're not in that servitude slavery.
Not directly.
Not directly. So what is missing? We have our land, like here we're in Botswana. We say we own the land. Now, to own something is the equivalent to knowing. To know is useless if that knowledge cannot be converted into the service of self and others. To know that there's iron ore in the earth, there are diamonds or minerals in the earth, it's just dead knowledge. If you don't have the wherewithal to be able to extract those minerals out of the earth and put them into the service of self and kind beneficiary. So we do have what we have. We have land resources abound, but we don't have the skill and the knowledge of how land and assets on the land are capitalized. So that
I still don't understand how that disqualified your book or made it less worthy to be distributed.
No, the book still would have made its rounds. The book still would have done what a part of what it was intended to do. But you see, you have to understand, I'm dealing with a subject that I don't want to be to do a compromise the content that I am capable of bringing forth that would serve God better. So if I can put it off for 3-4 months and produce a masterpiece that will talk not only to leaders, but talk to all the levels of understanding in society of people with regards to this. I'd rather do that than to be, I'm not in any rush. We've suffered long enough. Now it's time to work the key, to unlock the door and oil the key. If it's rusted, we need to be very strategic in making sure that we don't have omissions. So this dead capital aspect is big. It reduces a lot of what I said is based on rights. My campaign has been about land rights that are not recognized, and going into the nitty-gritties of why, and but beyond land rights is another huge subject of land utilization, the land dynamics, how we can use land to empower ourselves. That's more important than the rights. Well, no, I can't say that. Rights are important. Because that's the basis
they're equally important.
So if I educate you about rights, but I don't give you the science of how to use those rights to your benefit, we end up in a situation like in Zimbabwe, where you've got the land, and then what? So it's not about having it. I mean, we can take it from those that are using it in a proper way and still be at a standstill. We start accusing them of sabotaging us. No, when you know the science of how to use land, nobody can sabotage you. It's impossible.
And I'm interested in this concept of dead capital. Was it used to be alive? Was it killed? Or is it dead in what sense?
It is dead in the sense that it is not reflected as value where it matters. In the bank, for example. Or with the banks, or the banking industry, the finance world. Land, there has to be an interface between the ownership of land and the value of land in finance. Capitalization of land is when we say is dead capital, we mean that it has not been capitalized. The potential for it to be capitalized is there, but it has not been done.
And why has this been?
So we are not saying that it is killed capital. Yeah, so nobody really came and killed it.
Yes,
but it is dead. That it's in a state that needs to have life injected into it. Exactly.
Yeah. And does he go so far as to give us chapter and verse, the steps to take to resurrect it, as it were?
Oh yes. That is the missing link. That is the bridging the gap that needs to take place. We need to methodically take through students and others through a process, and I will attempt such today on our own issues locally. See, we need to be careful. We need to teach. We need to get over the phase of screaming at each other, because we're wasting too much time. There's knowledge here to be harnessed. There's knowledge here to feed the hungry. There's knowledge here to help uplift us. So we need to go for the knowledge and deal with the technical understanding, but breaking it down so that it doesn't choke the layman, who then would lose interest and walk away and say, we don't want to lose anyone in this whole thing. So we need to be very methodical, careful, strategic. I will probably need, in the book, I will do the best I can in terms of putting it down, but I'm going to have to also seek the assistance of communicators, because we need to communicate. We need effective communication, because disorganized love is not as effective as organized hate.
It's very interesting. Can you say that again?
Disorganized love is not as effective as organized hate. So I can say I love you, but I must organize my love for you so that the effect of it is reflective in your life. It comes to manifest, it shows.
Yes.
So what's the point of saying I love you if I don't organize? So this we're trying to organize. We have love. Patriotism, if you see the way I'm dressed, I love the country.
Yes.
I mean, I want to come through as a son of the soil. I want to come through as patriotic. I mean, I want to love my country. I want to make myself love my country, because what other choice do I have?
All right. Let's take a place like the city of London, as presumably the capital there is not dead. And let's take a place like Gaborone. Can you compare and contrast the two and show me the sense in which in the West the land is not dead and here the capital is dead, so that we can understand?
Yes. The construction of cities is the foundation of, or the construction of any civilization. The foundation of any development or civilization are what you call rights. real rights. Okay? Now we need to do a tie-in and show people. When people ask for certificates or leases from the land board, they are not asking for those things or those documents to go and or adorn the walls of their houses and go around bragging that I have a certificate. That's not the purpose for acquiring a land right document. The purpose of acquiring a land right document is so that you can go, this place called the deeds registry. It's a very interesting office. It's the interface between the finance world, the banking world, and the people, and what they have. It is more functionary for the banking industry and the finance world than it is a function for, it was set up as a product of the finance world, so that they can be able to have assurance, security. So when you speak development in different places, the real rights for these two cities that you've just mentioned, for example, real rights in Gaborone vis-a-vis real rights in London. Did you use Gaborone in London?
Yes.
Yes. Now, when you go to London, there's hardly any, as I found in my travels, there's hardly any development that does not have a real right. Hardly any. In fact, in other countries, I found that real rights go into space, as I tried to share with you the other day in Hong Kong. Those who are challenged horizontally, they go vertically and have rights in space. These rights are capitalizable, if I could use a word like that. These rights, whenever you have a real right, you have capitalized something that used to have no capital associated with it. The minute it's a right, then you can value it. Because you see, valuers, whatever they value, if it doesn't have a real right basis, then it cannot be utilized. It cannot be recognized. It cannot be reflected on your balance sheet, because it does not have a real right. In other words, if you have a borehole and you don't have a title deed to it, you don't have a title deed, a real right to it, that you can register a deeds registry, the valuer cannot attach a value to it. Therefore, you cannot borrow money against it and say, give me so much, I've got a borehole.
So are you saying to me that in London you'd have boreholes, parks, every little square inch of land with a title deed or with some kind of valuation mechanism attached to it?
Absolutely. In fact, I want to just simplify it for you, because there are plots everywhere. And then in between plots are what we call service corridors. The best word to use for road reserve is service corridor. You see, words also help, because they create a particular orientation and understanding. If you call a road, like Mobotswana, tsela. You see, that's a very general word. Tsela oraing, ora has kontiriseng ting. Tsela oraing, ora how grade ting. Kana ora the allowance that has been provided for where the road will be, and all the other things, services would go. So the word service corridor is the most appropriate word to use. So in places like London or First World, all the service corridors, a service corridor, what we call a road, which we should stop calling it a road so we can see it for what it is, and call it a service corridor, because it's got more than a road in it. That entity that we call a service corridor, it's got more than a road in it. It's got a road, it's got sewer, it's got telephone, it's got electricity, it's got stormwater, it's got, we have all the facilities in a road reserve. So all these in places like London have got title. So the other day I asked the question, so you get a title deed for a road? Yes, that is the secret. I don't know how to quite...
Well, this is what, as you're talking, I'm just wondering, because we took our system from the West, certainly from Britain. Why didn't they, when they taught our land surveyors, replicate this knowledge or share this knowledge?
Oh, that's an excellent question. We ponder these things. This is why when you grow and you ask questions, and then you never stop seeking. And seek and ye shall find. You should always ask that question, those kind of questions.
Yes.
Why are we so different? Well, clearly we are. They are up ahead and we are down below. And there's a reason, because a superior can only teach an inferior up to a certain point. And the rest they would have to figure out themselves. And I believe I'm one of those that have figured out the gap between the... We were inferior, and we were taught by superiors. They could not teach us everything they know to the same level, because if they did, we would be equal to them. It doesn't make sense. When you impart and you are a superior, you only equip for purpose. You don't equip for true equality. True equality comes from inspiration, normally by God. It's all in history, all the time. It will be a slave who would figure out how the master does it, and then imparts other slaves then. But this slave is inspired of God. It's never himself or herself. It's an inspired. I believe I have a similar type of inspiration when it comes to land, because certain things I was not taught, but I could figure them out. And when I asked the superiors, they have confirmed that what I say is actually true. And I found it almost like visions. You know how where I said that in the later days we'll have visions, or you'll have an inkling towards something. I think this is like that. Or intuition. That's why I follow guidance. So sometimes I get something bothering me, and then I search it and I find, wow, it's exactly what I thought. So they didn't teach us the aspect of monetization of... They couldn't have. I mean, Cecil John Rhodes had to come, and I'd like to talk about Cecil John Rhodes.
You did talk about him last time.
Glaring example of monetization of a corridor and making millions and millions, 100 or so years ago, more than 100 years ago. And look at what he did. He came and monetized a piece of land in our country, and it gave him value. Then he used that, because you see, the two things that are necessary in development is security and ability to repay. The ability to repay is easy to establish. You amortize the beneficiaries, the payments that you get from the beneficiaries. And then you create in such a format. The finances know how to do it. I mean, the accountants and these other homo, they can sit down and show you how that is done. So then, when you've done that now, it's an easy matter to progress now. Then you know what real money is.
Yeah. I want us to pivot a little bit, but within the same broad subject, and talk about the Talmud. Because last time you hinted, you were dropping pearls of wisdom, but you never got a chance to develop them. Because you said that this ancient wisdom, which is known by certain civilizations. For instance, you mentioned the Jews, and specifically you talked about the Talmud, and you talked about how they've mastered the study of land and how to optimize the use of such land. Could you just visit that element and develop it a little bit more?
Well, there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing is new. Everything that you see today took place before. This whole civilization that we are under, which is the Eurocentric Western civilization, what I sometimes refer to as the white man civilization. In no offense, saying it like, frankly, in the sense that it is a civilization born out of a certain prototype, a certain way of thinking, a certain type of jurisprudence, a certain type of religious orientation, a certain type, and that's predominant. So we are not Christians because we originated as Christians. We are Christians because we adopted it from the order under which we were reared. So a lot of things that we see, title deeds, you might think somebody just became so smart. In the strict sense of the word, there's no invention. There's nothing new under the sun. I think it was Solomon who said that. The world is so old. So old, there's no tracing its origin. So when we speak of scripture, which is various scripture, which are old writings, historical records of how the world used to run, they are religions, such as the Jews, who have understood the machination, the system, the ability, the body of knowledge that comes from the ancient world. Even today, they confirm that they see marvelous structures that they can't even imagine how ancient men could have built pyramids. The wonders of civilization today are found, and one cannot even comprehend how do they put the Giza pyramid, how do they put that stone so far away? What machinery could they have put? What the architecture involved was beyond imagination, because even those ancient people were so advanced. It is just that sometimes in the cycle of, or the wheel of time, certain things are obliterated. The Jews, being as diligent as they have been and hardworking as they have been in many respects, have managed to preserve that knowledge, extract it from old scripture, which is the Talmud. The Torah is their scripture. In the Torah, depending on how you read, there's a lot of wisdom even in the Bible, depending on how you read. But if scholars sit down and are able to extract and tally notes and prepare a format and a syllabus of property or a syllabus on land, the Talmud is the scholarly version of the Torah. So Jewish scholars have sat down and deciphered from the Torah methods that come from the past that speak of rights. I mean, words can change. We could call it title deed today. But land rights, which are made real by some means or the other, whichever means you use. The modern day version is to make land rights real, you register them as deeds. It doesn't mean that the ancients didn't know how to be able to measure and preserve that right in a unique fashion for a unique entity. So it is the ability to be able to do that the Jews, through their Talmud, have been able to preserve that knowledge and filter it through to their generation today that makes them super successful over others. Now we have gained the wisdom through experience and understanding and study to be able to interrogate what they did and translate it into our own reality as Botswana here and Africans or the black people in Africa in general.
In Israel, for instance, do they still apply this ancient wisdom, or they've modernized it like we have?
No, they definitely apply it. They definitely apply it. That is why their level of excellence is amazing in terms of what they're able to do. They definitely apply it. There's no way they are... You see, Israel actually taught Dubai. Oh,
yeah,
man.
The way you smile, you're about to tell us how they taught them.
No, it's just that it's
the
like,
linkages, it's so exciting.
We're not even observing.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, Dubai just came. Don't you realize there's a relationship there?
Yes,
Haven't you seen in the news? You don't see
2 years ago they signed a peace treaty.
Others are Muslims, the others are Jews. Wouldn't you expect them to be like at each other's? What is the common denominator? Who's learning what from who? And look at who's investing in who, and what are they learning? But they're learning of things, knowledge. Even if you call them here, the Israelis, to come and teach you something, you think they'll come here and teach you everything that they know?
No.
Oh, come on. And that's why we are so gullible to believe, and naive, to be honest with you, to believe it's our own, it's a son born in this country.
Who's going
a daughter born in this country. Yes, it is us who are going to provide the solutions to the perplexing problems of our time. It is not somebody who comes from outside who's a philanthropist who loves us so much that he's going to be able to give us first-class knowledge. No, it's a son. And that son
when you say
or
that,
daughter...
you remind me of something Ram said when I interviewed him on this show, when he said foreign direct investment contributes less than 1%, in fact, at best 3% internationally, and that we have a misguided view that foreign direct investment is going to save us. That is not... No, he said it bluntly. What is your take on that?
I agree with him 100%. Yeah, we're going to do things for ourselves. This mentality, which is a colonial mentality, slave-type mentality, of always expecting to be helped. And then when you're not helped, you get angry at the person who's not helping you, like he owes you to help you. No, I agree. There's a survival of the fittest dynamic happening here. So whites came to this country to do what they did because they wanted to survive. And they did it. I don't agree with the morals that they did it along, but they did it nonetheless. So we need to be able to lift ourselves up. And you remember, God only helps those who help themselves. So we don't deserve greatness. We don't deserve to be who we should be if we don't recognize that ourselves.
And if we don't help ourselves.
Okay.
Our conversation now is moving to the new Tribal Land Act. Before I go deeper into it, I want you to tell us about that act, how it was formulated, and how it came into effect.
Yeah. I don't want to go too much into some details that I might not have accurate information on. I don't know in terms of the background of the formulation of this act, but it was clear to me, looking at the policies, the Botswana National Land Policy, and the other acts and the other efforts and initiatives that government is engaged in, that it was an evolution, a betterment after the experience of what the old act was able to deliver for the country. It is a brilliant act. Mm-hmm. It is, oh yes, it totally represents where we want to go. It's never been the problem.
Yeah, but before we talk about problems, what does it seek to achieve, and what does it achieve? I want us to talk the positives first.
Well, it is to elevate us. I don't see. In fact, you don't even need to talk negatives. I don't want us to be bogged down on things that are not the problem. And because we could waste a lot of time deciphering. There's no perfect law. You know that. So we will pick up things clearly without any problem if we decide to spend our time on that. But the act itself is a positive. The previous act, in my opinion, was very good. I don't want to condemn it, but this one, it's very good too.
Is it better?
It's better in language. Yeah, it provides certain things in language that are more. It gives, for example, the market value issue that was never really explicitly pronounced. Market value for compensation will be one of the considerations. These things are. I always argued that the principles of natural justice suggests that when you compensate fairly. The Constitution would want to argue that and say that you wouldn't want to demean the possibility of compensating fairly on account of an act not spelling it out. But I mean, there are other things like the ownership elements, the ability to transfer, the allowance or allowing foreign nationals to be able to own tribal land. It creates business. It gives the wheels to the economy because we're dealing with leases here. There's all sorts of positives. The problem has never been the brilliance of our acts or the brilliance of our laws or our policies. So we shouldn't be bogged down on whether they're good or not, because we waste a lot of time. Even I know there's things going around about the Constitution, the Constitution. I get tired of us running up after things that are not the problem and avoiding. I think it's a denial mechanism where we want to claim for our lives are not improving because of something else, other than to confront the real enemy. Look at the enemy in the eye. Because with an act that is a quarter or a fraction as good as this one, but the right approach, we can change this country. We can change this country and make it shine.
You recently called a press conference to deal with the act. I think it was at Avani.
Yes.
What was the main purpose of that press conference, and did you achieve that purpose?
In part, this is work in progress. In part, I did. I mean, here's a climate we're creating. We're creating a climate within which things will take place. We are creating a consciousness. We are waking up people so that the authority must now understand that, the donkey is speaking with a man's voice. So it's no longer what
I know what you mean.
Yes, I mean, we're changing. People are changing now. So it's not as easy as it used to be in the past. So, yes, I went there and said to the nation, because I felt it was appropriate, I felt government was taking slightly longer to address the new Tribal Land Act. They cancelled the conference, the press conference they were supposed to have. And then I thought, there they go again, because we don't have, we need to move. And the new Tribal Land Act, in terms of my perspective and what I see, its teeth in problems, the application, and that which results in a mass or national cessation of business, because land board represents 70% of the land that Botswana owns. So whatever happens,
they control 70%.
They control 70% of the country. So whatever happens to the land boards in terms of whatever move they make, if they make a move to suspend anything, then they will cost. Their degree of interference is much larger than any other institution. So when I saw that, I said, because for a whole month since the 20th of April, when this act was enacted, land boards stopped completely from issuing leases or any land rights. Do you know the implications? And I was saying to them, you don't understand the role you play in the cogwheel of the economy. You don't see yourself and you're interconnected. You think you have the luxury of...
And what's the reason for that? What's the reason for cessation? I'm asking you this because the act is a 2018 act. you would expect that between 2018 and 2022, if the minister needed to promulgate, for instance, regulations, he would have done so in those 4 years so that we can hit the ground running when the act comes into effect. So I get the sense that the act is now operational, but there's no regulations to govern it or to guide the bureaucrats who are enforcing it.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And we do that. If you observe us as a country and as a people, we do as with everything we do. Our planning is very poor and we're very clumsy. There's a lack of ownership and a lack of accountability. We don't know who to turn to and ask for, we hear of this, and then all of a sudden it's chaotic. And right now, it's totally chaos. Total chaos. Where an act has been operationalized, but in terms of the ground, what's happening? And then you have got people who are in positions of power, who are in authority, chairman, land board chairman. I remember the other day, the land board chairman, I mentioned names because I read in an article in Monitor that the land board chairman in Kweneng,
I think you mentioned that in Geb's FM.
I did. He was dismissing my assertion as a foot soldier, as a land surveyor, a practitioner who goes to the land board every day, to say an alarm Botswana gore, in the last month, since the 20th of April, nothing is happening. No bonds are registered. The bank book is deteriorating. The economy is at a halt. Arrested development is taking place. And he was saying, no, it looked too, I think it disturbed him. The reality, then he can, apparently, according to the paper, allegedly he said, no, everything is just going smoothly. He doesn't know where Sesinyi is getting these things and everybody is being helped. But that would be, if he said it, that's a bold lie. And I worry about these lies because, authorities, when they can lie, a lie is very dangerous. It puts a needle in the brain of the population. They start believing that what is happening is not happening. If they were sensitive to know what is happening is actually happening, they would stand up and go there and ask the right questions. So, what is going on? When are you going to help? So what is happening right now was...
And still on that point, why was the press conference that they had planned postponed or cancelled?
If you ask me, because even when they did come forward, and I mean, I don't say this with any gripe towards the authorities, honestly, and I wouldn't want us to spend too much time also by, which had troubleshooting them too much, because we've really done justice in terms of figuring out. They stopped because they're not organized. They were not ready and knowing what to say. If you notice, they stopped, and then we came, and then we pointed out, and then I said that we're going to court because this is unconstitutional. There is no law that can be passed that works retrospectively. Laws work, and there is no transitional guidance. I spoke of the transitional guidelines.
Or there's a clause that wants to have it work retroactively or retrospectively?
Of course. Oh, yes. The manner in which it's written. If it says all people who have been accorded or given land rights by the coast, and through the repealed act, anyone who has been given rights to the repealed act is now ordered or expected or required
to re-register.
Yes.
Is this to say that regardless of whether there's a registration of deeds, regardless of whether or not there's a bond against that land?
Yes. I mean, that's the manner in which it was presented. That you have to re-register, and upon approval, land board's approval, when you bring it's like an application that is subject to approval. If they say upon approval, it can be disapproved.
But as a lawyer, I think this is going to create a tsunami of litigation.
That's what I was saying. And the minute I said that, they came back with, in about 2 days, they came out with transition guidelines. They're firefighting. It's clear. We can see that. Now, we don't want to continue to embarrass them.
Is transition guidelines the same as regulations? Because the Act requires, in my judgment, regulations to put certain things into effect. Is it these guidelines supposed to serve as regulations?
They are. In fact,
you'd expect the Act to give certain powers to the minister.
Yes, it was an afterthought. These transition guidelines were never part of the Act when it was formulated. It came as this is the reason why we are pressing the alarm, because it is clear to us that the powers that be, those who are responsible to do what they are supposed to, are not doing it properly. They're supposed to do it exactly like you say, where the Act itself is complete.
So during the 4 years between the creation of the Act and the issuance of a gazette to put it into so the issuance of a gazette to put it in effect, those 4 years, what was happening? From 2018 to now.
Typically, as we do in our country. Typically, as we do in our country, in those 4 years, the act was just sitting there. Nobody was trying to interrogate. Nobody was trying to prepare for the operationalization of it. Nobody. Yeah. It was just sitting there. I used to go, it was being sold at the Mogobe, and I didn't understand. But nobody was actually preparing.
It was sold at the government printer.
Government printer, sir. Yeah.
All right, you have a graph here. You want to explain something?
Well, I wanted to find a way in my presentation to simplify the dilemma, why they will not be able to achieve, why government needs help, why government must recognize that God is raising teachers, whether like myself. I didn't decide to do this vocation, this sort of occupation. It is an inspiration.
You're talking about land activism.
Land activism and land, I don't know what to call it. You can call it land activism. Everything must have a name. I just know I'm doing something here. Yeah, and I don't know what its name really is. What it is...
Well, I've called it a name, land activism.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to
called you that in my last in the last interview, and I noticed Gabs FM and others hang on to that.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I suppose I need to go by some sort of title.
Yeah.
So effectively what we're trying to do is we want to be able to teach those who matter in a loving, brotherly, sisterly manner, where we can sit, and I don't want to intimidate anyone or to make anyone feel uncomfortable. No. We need to know what is happening.
Yeah,
so this graph that I have here shows, I don't know, I can't even, I mean, I don't know whether
I'll hold it like this for you.
It's got like 4 boxes, just 4 basic boxes. It sort of sums up the LAPCAS program. Ghana, this new Tribal Land Act, the whole basis of it is the LAPCAS program. The LAPCAS program is a very forward, progressive.
What does LAPCAS stand for, by the way? Do you know?
Yeah, they know. Land administration, something. It's an information system for land. Yeah, I don't have it at the top of my head, but that's basically what it stands. It's got an abbreviation thing for that. So you've got this LAPCAS is an information system that's supposed to trace everybody and their land parcels in a system. At the click of a button, I should be able to see Mogobe's plot. On a computer, when we click it, we should be able to know the owner. We should be able to know the size. We should be able to know the land use. We should be able to know its coordinates.
Strictly for tribal land or for all?
It was being done for tribal land because the assumption is that, yes, but they're going to tally it with freehold. The most problematic type of land, if you notice, again, you know what all freehold land is surveyed.
Yes.
You know that all fixed term grants are all surveyed.
Yes.
State land is surveyed, by and large. Yeah, only a few in state land, Tabo Shah, have layouts that are not surveyed, but they have got data plans, what we call something similar to what you call data plans. So those are not a problem. The biggest problem in Botswana is not the land that is in towns and home. It's tribal land. It's unsurveyed, it's all over, and it is the majority of the land we have. So it is the mechanism, the system on this. This is a little chart that I prepared with the hope that I can be able to bring some semblance of understanding to the layman. Okay? Hori. There are survey records in one box. I call it box A. Survey records means survey diagrams, general plans, survey reports, anything to do with surveying of plots.
In box A.
It's in box A. That's information that's kept in box A. In box B, there is what you call attribute data. The name of the surveyor, the name of the landowner, the size of the land that they own, the type of use that the land is meant for, the location of where the plot is. Now, these 2 boxes, A and B.
Land use.
And land use. Yes. These 2, the attribute box, which is B, and the survey box, which is A, must be linked. Yeah, A and B must be linked. Okay?
Okay, keep going.
Now, after you've linked A and B, you must then convert the survey records that are linked with the data into what you call in a registrable format. A registrable format is to be able to take it to deeds and get deeds to be able to issue title deeds. Okay?
Yes.
Hey. Now, after you've converted them into this box C, into a registrable format, then you can now go to deeds with box D. Now, currently in this country, when Khoromente went out and tendered this thing called LAPCAS, surveyors in the country were given jobs to go and survey tribal land.
From outside, I think.
And some from outside, and everybody, it was like, lots of money was spent. We need the quantity of it and the deliverables. And the purpose of LAPCAS was to produce box A, box A and box B to lead to box C so that we can do D. Okay? This chart was supposed to be the purpose for which LAPCAS was established. And it didn't have phase 1, phase 2, as they want to claim today that they had phase 1 and phase 2. All that happened, typical of the manner in which we do things. Like you asked the question, why is the act only becoming planned for now, when in fact it should be now operationalized? It is because, very simply, that they use a method of applying themselves to a program that is very chaotic, that is not methodical, that is not systematic, that is not planned properly and executed according to the way it was planned. So LAPCAS, after the real LAPCAS that was done, was A. When they went and did surveys, they did the survey in the country. They surveyed plots and went and put the information, some in surveys and mapping, some in land boards. It's scattered actually. It's not centrally.
But is it not computerized?
Some is computerized.
Some is manual.
I think most is computerized. Let me not suggest that some is not computerized because I'm not sure of that. The records are there. Now these records...
But not in a central location.
Not in a central location. Because if you go to the central government Department of Land, which is called Land Department of Surveys and Mapping, if you get there are certain LAPCAS records they don't have, they refer you to land boards. So they haven't finished collation of survey records alone. And then they called people to come and register. And they created the attribute data. This whole journey that people took on nearly for Block B. Now, they didn't connect Block A and Block A.
How do you know that?
Because if you go to the land board, and there's the reason why they want us to go and re-register. If you go to the land board and ask them, who owns plot so and so, do you think they know? The plot is there. If you go to the land board and just take a plot number, just take any plot number and give them a plot number and ask them who owns that plot.
They don't know.
They don't know. They will pull out the record of the survey. But whether they will be able to pull out all the other attributes, it's another thing. But even if they did connect these two, they have not converted that information into a registrable format for deeds registry.
Purposes, yeah.
Yes, because to survey a data plan does not automatically mean that you can register that data plan or deeds. Normally what we do...
But were the original terms of reference or parameters of LAPCAS, did they cover these four?
Absolutely.
Or were they just intended to be A or B?
I mean, what if you were to just do A? I know they did both A and B. What would be the purpose of doing A and B and not be able to connect them? The purpose is to produce a record, D. The purpose is to end up a D where you have a record that is a D.
Was this the job of a specialized contractor? Did we have like a specific person to do this?
The government structure
from A to D.
Yes, the government structure for LAPCAS was set up in such a way that they convinced people. In fact, if you remember, it was before election. It was actually, they came out to actually say, the minute LAPCAS is done, after LAPCAS, when you want a title deed, you just come and get a title deed.
Yeah,
you just come to land board.
That's what we were told.
That's what they told people. But the question is, how are you going to achieve that? Are you going to achieve that by having surveyors just go and survey? And when they sent out tenders for surveyors, the government had a framework to receive those surveys when they come. So they were not, and then when they asked people to register, the government had a framework to receive that information when it comes. So they had the surveyors in here, they had the people who were dealing with registration here, all the land parcels in B.
At B,
yes,
yeah.
but they didn't connect the two. That's the reason why they can't produce. They didn't connect A and B, attribute data and survey records. Because if they did, they would be able to produce C. And if they were able to produce C, then they can make D. D now. Producing C is producing survey framed diagrams from data plans. Like for example, if you come in an area in register a title deed, you hire a surveyor. Then one is not even doing it, but a surveyor can then frame a diagram from a data plan, and there's a reason for that. You see, there's a reason why you frame from a data plan, and you don't frame from a general plan. Data plan and general plan, yeah. So how did it be?
But does the act seek to redo or duplicate LAPCAs, or does it simply say come and register?
To achieve LAPCAs. The Act seeks to achieve LAPCAs. The end result of the Act is so that we must have a LAPCAs system in place.
Without anybody explaining what happened to the previous LAPCAs.
Yes, now what they're saying is we should come back to re-register. You know why? Because they want us to help them connect. But people have been paid.
Large sums of money.
Of course. And the purpose of LAPCAs, as I say, when you were paying people to do survey, and you were paying other people to gather the attribute data, and then a lot of that happens in our country. We do studies. After we do them, we put it on shelves until the boss asks for them, and then we start dusting them. That's what's.
But given now there's an act of parliament, there's a law in place, doesn't that force us to do what is demanded, or will it require some court action to get government to do things correctly?
We will need a parallel approach. We need to intervene, brother. This is all I'm saying as civil society and professionals. We shouldn't stay away from this. I mean, the reason why I'm putting this, I'm challenging government with a little paper like this. I'm challenging them to prove to me, prove me a liar, that box A and B are actually connected. If they are, then I'll concede. Listen, I'm not to be, when I know what I've told, the falsehood, I'll consider, okay, that has been done. Then they'll have to explain to me why is C not being achieved. Because now for me, it's very simple. It's mathematical. It's a process that is logical. If A and B, if the attribute data and the survey records have been linked, there is no reason why we shouldn't now convert them into a registrable format and then move over to
Sesinyi, is this message getting through to people within your profession? By that I mean fellow surveyors. Are they grasping this point that you're making?
Well, every day as we journey in the journey of knowledge, and as we make the sacrifice, and as we also train ourselves to speak better. You remember earlier I said it's a communication challenge also.
Yeah, but I'm talking about specialists in your field. Are they grasping this?
The mentality of a professional is very interesting. Professionals sometimes, because sometimes I say things about lawyers and they don't like it. But professionals sometimes, as lawyers are professionals, they look at the money picture and where the money is. Such things that I'm doing. It's not a money thing. Notice, I'm not paid because I'm explaining.
No, you're answering a different
truth.
question. My question is this thing penetrating through within your field to your colleagues?
No, my colleagues already know this. Yeah, my colleagues know that you can't. They know that what a data plan is. You don't know. They know that I'm telling the truth about what the records.
Why can't they be mobilized to join forces and create a pressure group to help government and to help us?
You remember earlier I said this is work in progress.
I know.
I am speaking to my peers as I'm speaking to you. And they are just as uncomfortable lately out of the things that I say because they are reflecting on what they already know. I do get messages from a lot of surveyors. Some of them saying, why don't you come to the association? I've chosen not to be a part of the association for a reason. The Surveyors Association. For a reason.
Do you think they will suppress you or suffocate your voice?
Yes, I don't like to be in the largesse of government where my voice is gagged because I'm expecting a tender. You know these dynamics where you can't speak because I have to depend on this. I can't criticize the director because he is the main man. No. I don't want that. I am for truth. And I am more concerned about
Then
the
I have
masses.
to ask you my next question. How do we mobilize the masses to galvanize them into doing something? The Act is operational. The Act imposes, I believe, time limits within which certain things to do. How do we galvanize support?
We need, I spoke the other day, I gave an example actually, and I'd like to give that example again if you don't mind. I gave it on radio, Eddie Kolos and
You can give it again, no
I
problem.
want to give it again because I think it's a simple enough example. If there is a call from the country to say that the Kolos hotel mo Botswana sensore didn't show ma otana go tsengwa mo otana amasha. Go tsengwa mo otana amasha mo Kolos ma otana e seng ditara, ma otana amasha.
New wheels.
New wheels. Tsa ile go dita gona go tsama on the new roads. That lapkasi is for the future. Gore te re dirana gore gona go function in a future world, a modern world. So
Yes.
the Kolos is into ring tsama otana. Gore mentsa ba ntsa tender gore ma otana e go entsi. Aba reka by the way ma otana for the Kolos tsote mo Botswana. Aba hira batho gore ke la tender gore le tsenya ma otana mo dikoloi.
Yes.
E bo go tswa mogosi wa gore batho tisa maotwana a to tsengwa gore mo ntse dietse batho ka
Perhaps
go
you
duela
should give it
batho.
in English for the benefit of
Oh,
everybody.
okay, sorry about that. But this is my people that I wanted to reach, but it's okay, I understand.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I mean, then come, bring your cars. Bring your cars so that the wheels may be changed. And then people must come and bring their cars for their wheels to be changed. And when they get there, the guy who is responsible for changing the wheels, instead of him, again, he's got the wheels. Kind of, you have to work smart. It's working smart that is at the root of our failure. We work like fools.
The wheels in this case would be the analogy would
In
be
the
what? The
analogy-
pieces of land.
Yes. The new wheels will be the pieces of land that are in a computerized land information system format that make it easy to transfer, to transact land.
Okay,
the end result.
develop your analogy further because I know what you're talking about.
Yes, and then they come in. And as they come in with their cars to let you change the wheels, whether you decide, okay,
Remove all the wheels.
remove all the wheels from the cars and you throw the wheels, the nuts, a huge container.
In this analogy, the nuts would be
The attribute data.
the attribute data.
Yeah, you collect the attribute data and you need to connect it with the survey data. So if you put the cars that want some out on some out
So you just throw it in a big can,
yeah, you can. And so you've got the information.
in big container.
So I don't dispute they've got the attribute data. They've got it. Just like the nuts are there. I didn't say they threw the nuts away. The nuts are,
but it
you
has
know,
not been collated and placed in order.
in order so that it
So
can
has it been
serve the
thrown away?
purpose.
Who threw it in random? Who put it in a?
The government. Again, these practitioners.
No, but I want to understand how it was stored.
How it was stored.
Yeah.
Surveyors went and did surveys. And then when they finish their surveys, they submit them. The surveys are examined and approved. They get paid. What happens to that
Then
survey?
who then stores that information?
The government. The custodian of the
No,
information.
the land board, right?
Actually, I'm saying the government, meaning the land board.
Yes, but
Yeah.
they put it where? In some room, in some.
Strong rooms. Agree, we've got strong rooms.
Or
for
they
that.
just pile them at random.
What I mean, they've got no. The survey
I'm
records.
just drawing an analogy between the nuts in a big container.
Yeah.
And our records, where they kept.
The records may be kept in a computer, but if they are not connected to the record, what if there's two homo aspects here? There is the attribute data. You can get the nuts.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
the attribute data, lens size, whatever. Give the nuts. That's no only non. So they've got the data. They've got that. But where are his coordinates? Are they the coordinates of Mogobe? Are they connected to this plot that you've just indicated? So the nuts represent the nuts units. They represent the attribute data.
Yes,
So
yes.
why do they keep them even in their computers? It really doesn't matter. You can have computers and put confused information in there. So they've got all the information is there. And then they've got the survey.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah,
Give
they've got
up.
the survey data in computers. They've got the survey data in the records of the survey. They've got the attribute data still in computers as well, but they've not linked them. So, Yano, let me take you through your name Mautana. Yano, unsi Mautana kir. Unsi ni natse kwa kir. Nikore ni wa kadina Mautana.
Yes.
Ano nga chana kora atse Mautana amasha. Utaka na liku hitse ngore muru which nut in this big container belongs to this car. Now he's lost because he's got so many cars. And he threw all the nuts in there. So these guys, the reason why the government now is saying that people should come and re-register is to help them form this link. That's what I'm trying to say. The link, they've lost the link. If we refuse to go and register, the work that was done by Lab Kasia attributable is useless to them. So they want us back to come again. So it's the same way over the motor.
So my question is what to do now? Do we cooperate, realize that our government has blundered, but we need to move forward and cooperate? Or
Exactly.
do we ask them to do a mea culpa and accept responsibility for the blunders and apologize and then start again? We need, as an entrepreneur,
Exactly.
I need to get over the problem and get to the solution.
Exactly, totally. Yeah. What I think should come first and foremost, if I've shown you this, and I would like to sit with you again further as a lawyer and a professional like that, to explain this more, so that, because I've sent this into social space and I've asked people, let's talk. I want it to be the basis of our discussion so that we can interrogate. One of the things that need to happen, what state are they in, to confirm this. This needs to be confirmed. I don't want
to
to
disprove this.
Or to disprove.
If you are saying this, then they should disprove
it. And if that's the
but
first
still, me, I'm thinking like a lawyer here. I'm saying the act is in place.
Yeah.
You cannot dance around it. It's an act of parliament. What do? We have an overbearing legal obligation over our heads. We have the sword of Damocles hanging over our necks. What do we do before the sword comes down?
This act now, because it's already in place, is going to choke us. Now, this is the part where the law destroys the country. This is what you're going to see. This act, brilliant as it is going to suffer this country because it will not be implementable. Because the troubleshooting points to the fact that to actually implement it, a lot of work has to be done. But they will not accept or admit that. They will make it seem as though
it's routine, yes.
We're going to flow. Within 6 months, people come and register and whatnot. They don't have the capacity to even do the registrations. They have not surveyed things called cadastres. Cadastres are huge.
You are required to go and report the ownership of that piece of land without any concomitant effort to tie it to some kind of cadastral diagram.
Yes.
Or a survey diagram.
No, they're going to try and do that. Again, the survey diagrams are already there.
They're there.
Yes, the survey diagrams.
But as you come and say,
connected.
this plot belongs to me, and I told you 9 years ago, whenever and then you tell them, what can they do? What are their options?
This plot belongs to you. Plot number man. They've got the data again. They go and fish it out.
Yes.
Yes, at that juncture.
And when they fish it out?
And then when they fish it out, then they do the tie-in.
And when they do that?
And then when they've done the tie-in near A and B, then they can move now and start converting to C. But converting to C, Leon, is going to be a mammoth task. Ask any surveyor. It's going to be a mammoth task. You know why?
But Sesinyi, what do we do? Now I'm a problem solver. How do we get over the hurdle?
We need to come in. You and I need to hunker down and put on our gasoline jackets and go in the fire. We need to go there. We need to, men of honor must stand up. That's how Africa goes to the dogs, because when things go wrong, we don't get the necessary wake up and then do something about it. What needs to happen is our mathematical spectacles must come on, our thinking caps, right on. And then we want to assure ourselves that you know what you're doing and things are the way you say they are, because they are not. I get them on the ground. I'm telling you, even today. That's why the whole month has passed. They want to issue a the certificate or anything. Because they're not ready. They don't even. But we are getting security features, or these new rights will have security features. The system that the permanent secretary talks about so eloquently, you didn't imagine it. She's never even seen it. Bring it. Bring it. Do a PowerPoint. Show us. Words, pretty sounding words. Click. Bring the computer. How we are able to show the modular examples of what you're talking about.
I get it now from where I'm sitting. What are you advising the average man in the street to do? What is an average Botswana who's been bombarded by all this information do, faced with a limited period of time, which is 6 months?
Yes.
To a month is gone, 5 months.
He's a victim. He's a victim. If we don't correct this, the whole 6 months is going to be suffering. The country, people have been suffering in this country because of the lack of proper intelligent systems, Switzerland board. It's going to be worse. And it's got nothing to do with the brilliance of the act that's being enacted, but it's got everything to do with the way we plan and execute.
Once somebody like you, to use your example, comes in, brings in this to the attention of the powers that be,
yes,
is it your view then if implementation of the act should be suspended?
Absolutely. We need to be able to troubleshoot and fix the problem before the act is enacted. That's why I wanted to go to court.
But given the fact that we tend to be too defensive as a bureaucracy, are you not going to be forced to go to court?
I may. That's why I get a parallel approach. You know, for me, as on the one hand, an olive branch, on the other, we pull out the sword. You know what I mean? Because the idea is progress. Either way, we're going forward. Either way, we are in the right time. Either way, Botswana is going forward, irrespective of the folly of government.
Sesinyi, time is running out. I want to just take you to your previous comment about Dubai. Given these kind of hurdles and this thing that really makes your blood almost boil, do you think that your optimism and my optimism that indeed we're getting to Dubai, we're going to be the likes of Dubai, to quote you, is feasible or practicable?
Absolutely feasible, absolutely, and in fact it's a reality. This is not something that I say because I'm just a wishful thinker or an optimist. The resonance, in fact, if I just tell you what this voice has a constitution in this country, and it's not a political voice. Yeah, so many people agree with me. I couldn't have made it myself that way.
When you're in Gab's FM, I had Uncle Shimamonacheng and many others. All of them were supportive, and I'm also supportive. But sometimes we say to ourselves, what's the next step?
Yes, but see, truth is self-driving. If we are able to recognize the truth and are willing to support truthful actions, the speed at which such things will be corrected is going to shock you. You see, the population, the children, what are they listening? It doesn't matter. They know it. They feel it. So when what's happening with the land board and with this mess, this incoherent mess that needs to be corrected, it will be corrected in a week. It will be correct. Things will begin to take a turn. I know it sounds too good to be true. It's almost like when you read the Bible and you hear about the last days and the fact that we will rise, the fact that the dead will rise. You say, dead people coming from graves? Yes! So this whole Dubai dream is going to come about through a scriptural resurrection, a quickening. And it's happening. Even as we speak,
in a miraculous manner.
It is in a miraculous manner. I think it's miraculous actually. It's actually begun. It's not something that is to come. It's actually happening as we speak. In terms of what? People understanding. People, even after this show, the understanding of what is wrong with the machinery that will bring about this new act and make it come to fruition. That thing is dropped in the minds of people.
Especially the need to have a framework such as regulations.
A proper one.
Proper framework.
Proper framework. People are getting bothered already.
Before you ask me a question which you are entitled to do, Sesinyi, can you wrap it up on the issue of land activism and touch on how, using the act as amended, we can really resurrect our capital? That's where we started, the issue of dead capital, bringing it to life.
Yes. Well, dead capital, because, we speak of a number of things at the same time with respect to land because it's so diverse. I mean, right now we're not even dealing with rights now.
We're just on the surface.
Yes, we're just on the surface. We were trying to look at framework and application and so. Now, when it comes to the resurrection of dead capital, the framework for that is already in place. In this sense, that I have registered a road servitude, a road allowance diagram. I've had approvals, deeds.
For which place?
For Gaborone North.
Yes.
Yeah. We have done one or two. The law, in the manner in which it is structured, because it comes from the very people that we want to grow and into and surpass, has got all the provisions. All we need to do is slowly move into areas like the first area that is going to resurrect this country. The first area is the capitalization of all service corridors. Just that alone will constitute 60% of our growth. And there is nothing stopping us from doing it, only ourselves. The government has no problem with approving it. It's illegal, it's allowed. We're just not doing it because we don't believe. I mean, if we can escape Pakalani, our most celebrated property developer, how about the many of us who are doubtful like that? But the moment we understand its value addition and see it, and it will start becoming like a fashionable thing to do, in there like a fad, and it will catch on fast, because then you will realize that the value of your property is dependent on capitalization of your service corridors. You'll realize that immediately.
Please come back to the show when you've managed to register that title over those service corridors. Come and share with. I'll invite you again. But for now, you can ask me a question, sir, as we wrap up.
Well, this question now would be just, why did you feel the need to call us back?
I felt a burden, given the fact that the conversation was not complete, number one. Number two, I got so much feedback. Sometimes you can tell the feedback just from the amount of likes and the responses from a thing like TikTok. Your TikTok, after we posted your TikTok, portion of went viral. And then even in YouTube, where people are generally very slow to respond and to comment, there was activity. I think you had the largest number of comments and like you tried to explain that land is us, land is our DNA, land is our blood, sweat, and tears. And someone who is in the real estate industry, someone who needs land to survive, I could immediately understand some of your points, and some of your points resonated heavily. And because of the complexity of the issue, one cannot really solve it in one sitting. And it is my undertaking, if you agree, to invite you every 6 to 12 months. I mean, the last time we were here was about 9-10 months ago, to invite you back to come and share, so that the conversation grows. It's out of self-interest, and it's also out of love of country, and it's also a realization of the amount of passion you have, as evidenced by your garb and your dress, and the passion with which you speak. I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I must thank you for that, and God will bless you richly, my brother. And I really do thank you, because when you mentioned the land being us, and I remember part of what you had asked earlier about the Talmud and the Torah, the fact that a human being disintegrates when they die and become part of the earth and becomes a nutrient in the earth for other life to
emerge.
So there's a recycling, which means if we can be able to preserve rights, we are gaining a bit of heaven on earth. On earth. So, the whole earth, which is like a big ball of, it weighs about 6 sextillion tons, and it rotates on its axis at an incline of 33 1/3 degrees every around the sun. Yes, making a complete revolution on itself every
365 and a quarter days.
365 and a quarter days, but a revolution around itself every 23 hours, 57 minutes, and 46 seconds, because of the incline, creating seasons. As it does that, and the thing pushing it is the power of the sun. The majesty of it all, and it's got a surface area of water that is about 139,685 square miles of water. And then it's got a land covering 57,255,000 square miles of land, which is a third of 1/3 land and 2/3 water. But because of its proximity from the moon and its relationship to the moon, the moon used to be a part of the earth.
Wow, this is so intriguing. This is so fascinating. I think your love for the earth is fully manifest, and love for the land is clear. Thank you very much.
Yes,
as we conclude our conversation, I want you to look at that camera and leave those viewers with some words of inspiration.
Botswana, and everybody in our country, we're here. We're here to share, and we're here with a resolute desire to help activate a latent spirit in us. Ya go nna le maikarabelo a go itse gore modimo re hile eng re se dirisitse jang. We want to answer that question when the time comes. What have you done with what I gave you? When I gave you plenty, I gave you life, and then I gave you knowledge. We have been taught in schools, and life continues to teach us every day. We live in a global village. We can know everything. Today, we live in a day of information explosion. There is nothing that stops us from entering into the door that will lead us to an abundance of joy, an abundance of health, an abundance of friendships in all walks of life, good homes. There's nothing that stops us. But doing it alone doesn't help. We need to do it together. Thank you.
This is great. How do they get in touch with you? Do you have any contacts on social media or even elsewhere?
I think the cell phone is the best way of reaching me on WhatsApp. I want to just leave it at a cell phone, which is 77487983.
Okay. I've seen you passing through social media. You don't have a presence there?
No, I keep my presence on social media very low.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we
Dormant.
understand. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and you've been a wonderful guest. I appreciate fully what you've shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother.
Bye.
Thank you.